the way we see the world is in hospitality, the case for automation is just going to get stronger and stronger. And I think you're going to end up with businesses that in 5 years' time look quite different to how they do today. I think it's not inconceivable that restaurant businesses in 5 years' time are going to run with thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of AI agents.
Welcome to Captive Conversations, brought to you by Captive Wi-Fi. I'm your host, Adam Foreman. This podcast brings you the best stories from suppliers, marketers, and operators from our beloved hospitality sector. Now, let's get on with the show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Captive Conversations podcast. I have stopped doing that episode number because I completely forget which numbers they are. But this should be 51, so we're all good. I have Matt from Youda, so thank you very much for coming. We've met a few times, and we've spoken a few times, but it'd be interesting to hear more about you and what the product does, because I'm not really into the people stuff as much. So it'd be interesting for me to understand it more, because we spoke before, and you told me all about it, and I was like, okay, this is crazy. So yeah, it'd be good to understand and the generation of everything, where everything came from. But I'm going to dive straight in. So if you want to wave to everyone, give them a little wave. Think hello,
Hello.
And the virtual wave for others. We're going to kick in with the two questions. The last guest was Paul Molinari from Popcorn GTN in the US, and his first question was, where do you think the economy is going? How you think it will continually impact the industry? For example, food costs, delivery costs, and so on.
All right, the easy one is a bit Saturday. Where do I think the economy's going? I think it'd be more the same, in the sense of more uncertainty, more volatility. It's not. I think everyone talks about growth, but I don't think it's just we've got this obvious bounce back to growth in a sort of sunny upland sense.
Yeah.
In the space, but so as you mentioned, like our focus is obviously on the people side of hospitality. I think the things we're betting on, if you like, is the cost of labor is going to continue to rise. The hidden costs of employing people are going to continue to rise. You look what in the UK, what's coming through in the employment bill and that sort of thing. And at the same time, the cost of compute around AI is going to continue to fall. So at least as the way we see the world is in hospitality, the case for automation is just going to get stronger and stronger. And I think you're going to end up with businesses that in 5 years' time look quite different to how they do today. I think it's not inconceivable that restaurant businesses in 5 years' time are going to run with thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of AI agents.
Yeah.
That I think actually within sites, they'll look pretty much like they do today. You still have, the one thing you can't get AI to do is cook food.
Yeah.
Or serve people
with a trial.
Yeah. So, but I think all of that sort of automation ends up killing the magic of most hospitality businesses anyway. So I think the front line of hospitality businesses will stay as they are. I think the overhead will change really dramatically. Like you will see hospitality businesses significantly delayer, significantly smaller head offices. And that kind of seems inevitable from where we're sat at the minute. And in that context, I think if the economy doesn't grow significantly and people don't rush to spend money, which can't see happening, to be honest, people who can get onto the technology wave at the right time are going to get a disproportionate benefit.
Yeah,
because you'll be able to reinvest your own cash and get more profitable. So I don't think it looks easy, but I do think at least from where we're sat, there is a way through this. There is a way to create growing profitable businesses. You just have to be very proactive, I think.
I think that one thing I was thinking of when you were saying that is the retention piece is probably, I think, the tools that are available with, especially with what you do as well, is definitely going to help with retention, because retention is terrible, right? Keeping your staff. And I think that the tools like what we can talk about is massively going to help, because when you want to ask a question about something, it's going to get ended up in an email that HR are never going to email that to you, and it gets left, and then I'm just going to leave because I want to go to another company, and those sort of things that get lost in the ether, it will help.
Well, you've got two dynamics. And one, as I said, price of labor continues to go up, right? You look at the total cost, you're looking at about £14-15 an hour for a minimum wage employee when you have pensions and etc. But at the same time, actually, if you look at the trends for hospitality and similar industries like social care, retail, construction, etc., they're set to grow. More jobs than there are people to do them. So actually you've got this challenge of you're paying people a lot, but it's also quite difficult to, as you say, attract people and hold on to them and get value from them. And yeah, employee experience, I think, matters in a way that it candidly didn't 10 years ago. It's so different. And, people talked about, how important people were to the business, all those sorts of things, but in a context where, let's be honest, people were pretty confident they could find a chef if they needed it, or they'd fill a vacancy if they needed it. That's changing and will continue to change. And you have this really weird dynamic I don't think people can really understand from it, which is people are choosing to be economically inactive or to do like gig work, or like it's getting harder and harder to staff teams, and we've seen people limiting their opening hours and limiting the pace at which they open new sites, not because they haven't got customers, because they haven't got people to staff the restaurant.
And there used to be loads, right? Yeah, there used to just be a plethora of,
Yeah.
the pool was huge, right?
And whatever you feel about the politics of it, I think there's this reticence to fill talent shortages with immigration. So we've got to attract people who've aren't looking for a job in hospitality. Like didn't consider it as an option, or don't want to do it, or no, let's be honest, it can be a really tough job.
Yeah.
You will find a way of as you say, attracting those people and keeping hold of them. And I do think that will be a big source of competitive advantage if you can fill teams and you can open new sites, versus regardless of how good the product is and the customer facing bit of the operation is, if you can't get that right, you aren't going to be able to grow.
Yeah. Before you go on to the next question, I think, I don't know about you, but I have sort of felt it, that there are people who it's just a job rather than, because previously I think a lot of venues we work with, they took that role because they wanted that career path.
Yeah.
Like a friend of mine came back from Australia and he's like, oh my God, hospitality in Australia is amazing. Like, it was like everyone was unbelievable. Like I went into a coffee shop and then I went into a high-end restaurant and they're all all over me. And then I came back here and I got a dirty look from a barista in the coffee shop. It was weird. And I think previously there was a lot more, people who wanted to work in hospitality. And I think now people just work in hospitality because it's a job rather than...
Yeah, I think a lot of the conversation in the people space about how do we hold on to people, how do we make it a career, and those sorts of things. And I think that is a problem worth solving. Like, I do think you want to be able to attract people who want a career. I don't think though that that's going to get you enough people to if you're at any sort of scale. You also, in my view, need to be able to create great episodes for people, right? Hospitality should be a place, in my opinion, where you can have a great summer job.
Yeah.
Or where you can work part-time while you're studying, or maybe you've had kids, you want to come back to work part-time or something like that. Like it's the key, as I said, you need to create great episodes, and I think you need to be able to create an employee experience that works for different people.
Yeah. And
the challenge, I think, from the tech perspective is the last generation of tech in hospitality was very one size fits all. You had to run your business the way the tech said you had to run your business. And this idea that you were going to tailor your employee experience or segment your employee base so you could have different experiences with different people just didn't even register. And now there isn't a talent pool big enough to do one size fits all and make it work. So how do you create this workplace where in a good is much more inclusive in the sense of you can identify and respond to the different needs of different people.
Yeah. And quickly.
Super quickly. And the other piece is you need the ability to predict. Like, actually, it's much easier to hospitality, I suspect, will always have a higher turnover of teams than other industries. The key to managing it is whether you can predict it.
Yeah.
You need to know how many people are going to leave in August, how many people are going to leave in September. And at the moment, no one in the people space has any sort of data really that gives them predictive quality. So that's obviously what we're looking at. But that's what I think is quite a dramatic change that's taking place in the people space at the moment.
Yeah, no, I agree. Okay, question number 2. And he said that this one was an interview question he was given as a tricky one. Not that the first one wasn't tricky, but he said, if you were going to design a car for a deaf person, how would you go about doing it?
I think that one's easy.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's got to be an autonomous vehicle.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that...
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah, it's got to be an autonomous vehicle.
Yeah.
The only thing that made me think of was I was at an event recently and talking about inclusion in hospitality, and particularly around neurodiversity and how you create workplaces for people with neurodiversity. And someone made the point, a really great point, which was like a lot of the changes you make to make a workplace better supportive someone neurodiversity actually works for everyone else too. And it's kind of the same with self-driving
massively.
cars,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You can have a technology change that just works better for everyone.
Yeah.
And if you happen to be deaf, and yeah, great, you can just sit back
Yeah.
and enjoy the ride like everyone else.
I like that. Yeah. That's a good answer. I'm going to ask him what his answer was, because I think he may have been asked a while ago.
Okay. Fair enough.
It probably wasn't that many autonomous vehicles or Tesla. But anyway, we're going to go into the standard questions. So the first standard question is best hospitality experience.
Best hospitality experience. I've got a new favourite pub, which is, I live out in the Cotswolds. It's the Bull in Charlbury, and it's. I hesitate to say it, I think it's perfect. I think it's perfect. Food's amazing.
Consistent.
Yeah, really wonderful, really great team, really great food. But I just really like a pub with a slight sort of puritanical decor, just like not trying to be some. Yeah, it's just it's my new favourite experience.
Nice.
Yeah.
No, I like that.
And I can walk there with the dog.
Oh, are they? Okay. I mean, that's just walk with the dog and it being consistent and it being just right.
Yeah, it's just perfect.
Is winning. Where I live, there's a local Italian. It's the same. It's like it's consistent, the same thing. The owner's lovely. It's like, that little local.
Yeah.
There's not always they're not always there, are they?
Yeah.
But sometimes they are. Okay. Best hospitality tech, but no self noms.
Fair enough. I only really know the HR people space, so I'll pick some of that. In that space, Rota Geek.
Yeah.
I think one of the things we've realised, or I've realised since we set up Youda, is the extent to which the rota drives so much of the employee experience. Like, if you mess the people's biggest frustration, I think, in hospitality is not knowing the shifts they're working in far enough in advance, or a shift pattern that doesn't fit them, or that's like, I hesitate to say like hygiene factors, but that's like the biggest determinant day to day of how I feel about where I work.
Yeah.
And so having a good rota system, I think, is so foundational to getting it right. And of the ones I've seen, Rota Geek is the one that just has the best UX and the best machine learning on like.
Can you do the whole thing with like what's free available? That's
it's all that sort of, but it's just like the ability to like one of the.
Is it the visibility piece as well?
It's the visibility, but I think one of the things that's like, I'm a sort of insider outsider in hospitality. So I've done lots of work in hospitality, but lots of work elsewhere. One of the things that like is obvious if you've got half a foot in each camp is like why are we only telling people what shift they got next week? Like I've got people. We work with police forces, or they rota 12 months in advance.
Yeah.
Like, why wouldn't you want to know a bit further?
Or give them the option to take more.
Yeah.
Exactly. Which would be wonderful, right?
Yeah,
because
exactly.
then they're allocated in, or have the option to be flexy, move it about. I 100% agree with you.
And I think a lot of it, I don't mean to sound as harsh as perhaps it come across, but a lot of it's like bad habits. Like I think in the past, people have managed volatility in sales by leaving the rota super late.
Yeah, send it out. And then...
So that you can get that classic email out to a business, which is, we need to cut to X to get in line with this month's budget. And people constantly, pull in those small levers to try and pull in, a week's budget or a month's budget, but at this great cost that actually you create a place where, frankly, most people can't live their life on a week's notice. Like if you've got family commitments or caring commitments, or you're studying, whatever, you need some certainty that you can plan around. I think, being able to forecast labour with accuracy over time is it unlocks so much in what actually matters in an employee experience.
And your top tip to operators is open it up. Open up the diary.
Yeah,
let people grab it.
And also, like, again, come back to my point. Like, you are employing a team that have all got different needs. Like, some of your team are quite happy to maybe pick up a shift at 10 minutes notice. Some people want more certainty. So I think it's about how you get a balanced team. So you could rota 80% of your hours, 12 months in advance. And keep a smaller amount of flex. Does that make sense? Rather than, as I say, like try this one size fits all, like everyone gets their, the shift thing goes up and suddenly everyone's got to try and scramble around and swap, and it's a mess.
Yeah, I think a big challenge as well is the 0 hour type of contracts, right? I was in the Grove on the weekend, and this waitress, we went for dinner at one of their little restaurant that's in there. And then we went to the bar, had a drink, and I was having just a bit of banter with her, and she's like, and we're talking about tips and blah, blah, blah. And she's on 0 hour contract, and she works more hours than anyone there because she's back from uni,
Yeah.
and she'll smash out as many hours as possible.
Yeah.
And we were talking about like tips and stuff. She's like, yeah, don't, because I'm 0 hour, they'll all get more than me.
That doesn't sound legal, but
doesn't sound right, does it? But she
I
does
think
more
with
hours.
the-
It's all
I don't
dependent
know-
on content. It's difficult.
I don't know if you've seen what's in the employment bill. One of the proposals in the employment bill was that people on 0 hour contracts would get, the right to have their average hours.
Well, that's what I thought. So I'll go back there next week and have a chat.
Certainly the tips.
Yeah.
But I do think 0 hours contract. I think it allowed people who weren't running their businesses well to push that risk onto the people who could least afford to hold that risk. I'm not sure it's a great way to try and run a business. I'm sure, I'm sure there might be a segment within your employee base who're quite happy on a 0 hour contract. That's what they want. I think for most people, if you've got any sort of commitments in your life, you want to know how much you're going to earn.
No, I agree. Okay. So this is sort of where we go back in time. We sort of get the time warp and start from the very beginning. Was it hospital? So talk to me. Where did it start? Where did you begin? Where you were? I haven't done a deep dive because I normally my ChatGPT deep research, I didn't paste it in here, so I didn't do the full deep dive, which I normally do. But where did it start? Where did you begin? What did you begin early doors working for Hospo or
No, not really. So after university, I did a few things like trying to find out what I wanted to do, and ended up working for a big manufacturing group. And in 2008, I was kind of like the hatchet man, really. Like we had a lot of costs to take out, and I used to work for the finance director, the HR director, both of whom were really good to me, but indulged me, and they just sort of gave me projects so I could try and I guess they sort of put some hairs on my chest, sort of thing. One of which was taking a lot of cost out and that sort of thing. Anyway, after the market recovered, it was a question of how long could we hold on to a lower cost base and respond to increasing demand. We didn't have money really to automate lines, so it was basically how do you make fewer people work more productively. I sort of got involved. Well, got the chance to do some cultural change type work where you were going out, and I particularly focused on how you generate ideas within teams and that sort of thing. I should say, I think almost everything, if not everything I tried to do did not work. But
good learning though.
Yeah, well, so for the people who came after me, it certainly was, because they did some great work. I'd like to think that my failures.
You laid the foundations.
Yeah, definitely. I remember talking to great people in that business. One particular guy, I remember particularly a guy called Mark Fincham, who used to work on what's called a multi-point gluer machine. So it's basically cuts out a cardboard box, a template of a cardboard box. And chatting to Mark and about how we can improve things and that sort of thing. And it was like releasing a pressure valve on someone. And Mark had an absolute just hundreds of ideas. Mark's a wonderful character. I wouldn't mind me saying some of his ideas are crazy.
Yeah.
But they had great ideas in there. And actually Mark went from being a machine operator, he ended up as the digital communities manager in a FTSE 100 business. But my personal my worldview, I'm a pretty convinced atheist. I think you've got, 60, 70, 80 years of life, and then you'll end up in some sort of a box. You're going to spend a third of your life asleep, and then the next biggest investment of your time is work. And for people like Mark, we had 10, 20,000 people working on machines. Work's at best, let's be honest, a pretty mediocre experience. If you ask people how the job is, they'll say, "Oh, it's fine."
Yeah.
And that just really bothered me. Particularly when you have the experience of actually working with people and they have great ideas and they can make a huge impact on a business, and they enjoy that, that ability to have some autonomy and some efficacy. So I left DS Smith, and one of our consultancy partners at the time was a company called The Storytellers. I don't know if you've ever been in a paper mill, we used to do recycling paper mill box factories.
Yeah.
Well, candidly, the smell of two of the three parts of the chains is horrendous.
Yeah.
Particularly a paper mill. Anyway, and I used to spend all my time in paper mills, and these guys, the Storytellers, they had this beautiful office in South Kensington. You'd walk in and everyone seemed to have a new MacBook every time you walked in, and then they'd have patisserie. So I was like, hang on a sec, I think I'm on the
What's going on here?
on the wrong side of the fence here. So I went and worked there for a bit. And that was mostly about how you use narrative to engage large organizations in change and working with boards and that sort of thing. And interesting. Worked with some really interesting organisations. Learned a hell of a lot. But I after a couple of years had worked out that actually I enjoyed being on the shop floor, like whether that was like a restaurant or a retailer or a manufacturing facility, and I just love that environment. I love the people, and so set myself up on a consultancy practice. And basically, at the time, I was inspired by all that. I don't know if you remember, like late 2000s, all that positive psychology research, like how to make people happy and all this sort of thing, and this sense that there was some science around how you can make people flourish. And I was convinced if you could use some of those scientific hypotheses and also show that you made people more money, that was the key to it.
Sorry, thank you.
So we've basically spent 10 years trying to work out, like, how do you construct essentially randomized control trial, like intervention, so you can evidence the relationship between managing people, making them happy, and making customers happy, and making more money. And Youda's kind of born out of that, because like after 10 years of not, like, again, every qualified success under the sun. The challenge in the space is, one, people teams don't have the tech to be able to actually to run experiments or to ship things quickly and generate data about what's working. And secondly, there's a really interesting thing about how you have to model the data in the people space in order to be able to evidence causation, which is a bit like that'll be boring as anything. But with Youda, there's an interesting branch of machine learning that we are looking at and using in order to be able to solve that second challenge. Because for me, people directors are kind of in the space now that marketing directors were in the late 90s.
It's really weird, isn't it?
Like, if you're a marketing director in the late 90s, like the famous quote, you're wasting half your ad budget, you just don't know which half. That's where people directors are now. Like, they know that the money that they spend on their people, whether it's training or how they rotor, or they know, like, some of it probably works, some of it probably doesn't work, and there's no way of evidencing causation. There's no way of evidencing what works for who.
What's the efficacy is,
and what the return is to the business, and that's basically the problem that we're trying to solve. Did that answer the question about this, how we got here?
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, it's really it's the one I had, the podcast a week and a bit ago. He sort of fell into the role, and it's a bit like you sort of like you've not fall into the role, but you've taken that journey of taking the route.
I'm the guy who spent 15 years trying to solve a problem. Genuinely, I spent about 15 years. I did some. I don't want to say we did some good work, some interesting stuff, but never knockout solved. But every time, like, it didn't work, or every time it was like it worked but not quite as well as we thought, or I'd go away and try and work out why it was, and after 15 years, I found this is what we need to do. And
then was that the first iterations of what the product is now?
Kind of. So we've always been trying to fix the problem of, like, how does a people director work out what's working and what's not working. Now, the challenge in the space is actually, if you want to do that, no one's generating the types of data that you would need to be able to train a model. So the first problem is, how do you get a new data set on people's behavior at work, and that you can use to train the machine learning. So
let's talk about before. I mean, machine learning's been around for a long time. There's ChatGPT that everyone thinks about. Right, and then there's machine. So ML has been around for ages. But utilizing it in the right way is.
And like, actually, I don't know if it's interesting, but ChatGPT is slightly different to machine learning. But even the theory of ChatGPT has been around for 20 years. Like, actually, the thing that's changed is compute and people's ability to do this stuff. So you're absolutely right. The theory of this stuff has actually been around for, like, in most instances, about 40, 50 years.
I find it really interesting, because I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and it's like, everyone's putting AI everywhere, and it's not AI, and lots of people, it's to make people understand that it's just machine learning, because people get very confused with it. They're like, we've had ML for years, like, look at Tenzo, right? They've been doing data models for donkeys, and then a website throws AI and now we get it.
I think when I'm trying to talk to, like, customers or prospective customers, like, one of the things I try and land with them is that AI is not one thing. There are many different instances of artificial intelligence. Like, things like machine learning have been around for a long time. Gen AI is a bit newer. There's like other, and we are not. We are still quite some way of away from a unified model of artificial intelligence. But yeah, you're right. Like if you text and it predicts the end of your sentence, that's machine learning. That's like that is AI. So it's I think this idea that it's suddenly come along and we need to be really wary of it is quite interesting.
Yeah. I'm actually, a little note here. It says the genesis of Youda, and it says here that my little researcher was fast forward to Youda. I've heard you mention that a big mistake or tough learning experience in your career actually set you on the path to founding Youda.
Yeah. So when I was working as a consultant, we did a project with a retailer. So what we were doing at the time is basically we'd go in, we'd work with a subset of stores, and we'd essentially try and get them to run like a software team, like create your own hypothesis, test it, and iterate.
Yeah.
It was really great fun. People loved it. And we did this one retailer, and they'd spent like 2 years trying to improve customer service in the business, but it hadn't really worked.
Yeah.
Their customer service scores had gone up, but it turned out they'd gone up because the teams were basically gaming the system and their sales had been.
Yeah.
Anyway, we went in and we worked with these teams, and they try things, and you'd get a little spike in the sales data and the data, but it would last like 4 or 5 days, and then it would crash down again. And the project sponsor, the people director there, was awesome. Really smart guy. It was really like, sometimes you get customers who are smarter than you, understand what you're trying to do better than you do. He was one of those. And consequently, we were desperate to do a great job for him, and every time the scores go up, we get excited and we think, yes, this is great. And then it would go down again. Anyway, long story short, what was happening was when you look at behavior in the context of an organization, I think it helps to try and see that behavior as being a point in tension between things that are pulling it in one way and things that are holding it back, right? And they were trying to pull the behavior towards better service. So they put incentives in, they communicated about what great service was, they trained everyone, all those sorts of things. The challenge in that business was there were too many constraining factors. Actually, they had probably too many SKUs.
Yeah.
They weren't managing the back office stuff well enough. So you had like classic like deliveries turning up at peak hours rather than they had a lot of stuff. The underlying operation was basically just
fragmented.
Yeah, and so what would happen is every time that someone would try and do a better job for customers, they'd get a snapback. Does that make sense? So you'd spend more time with customers, but at the consequence that the warehouse at the back was messed.
Overloaded.
And then it would snap you back. You'd have to go do it. And
you did an amazing job, but your delivery came out 5 days later.
Yeah, exactly. You'd like have a load of backlog of delivery stuff that you then the next day.
Hence the peaks and troughs.
Yeah, exactly.
So interesting.
Now, ironically, in those circumstances, the only way to improve is actually to release the constraining factors, and actually putting in new pull factors actually makes the situation worse. Like if you said in that situation, you're a store manager, we're going to send your people away for training.
Yeah.
All you're doing is exacerbating the task burden of all the other people that are still in the stores. So it was really, I spent a lot, afterwards, I was like, why didn't that work? Like go away looking at, and it got me into like systems thinking and complex adaptive systems and all those sorts of things. And the reason that sort of pushed us to where Youda is because, again, if you think about an employee's behavior, what's interesting in the people space is you have a number of factors that influence that employee's behavior, many of which you're not immediately aware of, like the culture, et cetera, and the operation and those sorts of things. And you are also looking to optimize for more than one type of value. And so you have this, what I would think of as a complex adaptive system. Now, when you come to look at the data question, it's a bit, what tends to happen in the HR tech space is people see stuff that's worked in marketing and they try and translate it across to it, and it doesn't translate because in marketing, you've got this nice measure of what the value is, like, did you make a sale? How much was that sale worth? And the causal relationships in that system tend to be linear, not circular. Like, they went on the website, they clicked on the offer, they booked.
Yeah.
Super easy. Did the offer work? Yes or no? You can A/B test it. In people, the causal relationships tend to be much more unpredictable and they tend to be circular. So if you have an unhappy team, you expect more people to leave. If more people leave, the ones that stay are likely to get even unhappier. Does that make
100%? It's a full circle.
And so actually our insight in Youda is the way in which you evidence causation in that space is what's called causal inference, which is about how you apply Bayesian formulas to event-based data structures. But we think we found a way basically of working out in that complexity, how do you evidence, take a 90-day turnover as an example. Like, does it make a difference if you give people 2 days off in a row or not?
Yeah.
Does it make a difference if someone doesn't share a first language with anyone else on the team? Does it make a difference if someone rates one of their first 3 shifts as 1 out of 10? Or does that make sense? You can identify these factors.
So, okay. I'm going to go into the in a minute. So it's basically pulling all these data points in to making sense out of.
Well, it's firstly generating all this data.
Yeah,
because no one's generating this
no,
data.
but so you're pulling it. So you're pulling the data out rather than generating it.
So what we do is we've got AI agents.
Yes.
That essentially create experiences for people, and by those people participating in those experiences, we generate the data on what's going on. Yeah, I don't know how deep. Like,
no,
I'm going to get boring.
No, because my brain's going. So, okay, so where did that journey start with ML? Like, where did it? Right, I'm going to build this into a system, because we're sort of not there yet. We're into the piece whereby you were like, okay, right, so you've seen this, and there's something can be done. When was the light bulb moment of like, hold on, actually, I can get. I don't know if it was. I can get someone to build this.
Yeah. We're on the 3rd version of how we're trying to technically solve this problem.
Yeah.
So the first 2 versions didn't work. So I would hesitate there was a light bulb motion.
Yeah.
More just like grinding frustration for a few years.
It will work.
Well, this didn't work. We're going to try something else that will.
But I love that, because you've got to fail to make things better. It sounds horrible. It always sounds horrible. You've got to the learning from the mistakes that are made. Makes everything better.
Yeah, and the other challenge is when you're building tech at the stage we're at is like you can be undermined by a technical problem that's not on the level you were trying to think of solving the problem. If that makes sense. So actually, our biggest problem is how do you get frontline team members to be able to interact with an AI agent, because there's no existing distribution channel, so we've had to build that. That's you've got to sort of layer up the solution to
so now let's talk. Okay, fine. So now we're into the first iteration, second iteration. We're now in a 3rd iteration that's working.
Yes. Like, can you see on the bit? Like, relief.
So when was that?
So that's going live now.
Oh, amazing!
With our so is it worth trying to explain to people what an agent is?
Yeah, you can do, absolutely.
So when I'm trying to, an AI agent is the film Despicable Me. The little
so cute. That's
what an agent is basically. So
I love that. I love that. I like that. That's really good.
So you create a tiny little bit of code or a prompt that sits in an environment where it has the tools to be able to execute on that prompt.
And it's got its own little specific instructions, what it's meant to do on a daily, minute, hourly basis. Just sit there churning away.
Yeah. So you practical example. Your job, little agent, is every time someone clocks off at the end of their first day, you send them a message, ask them how their first day was.
Yeah.
Or your job is every time someone asks for an employment reference, you check how much they get paid, how long they've been employed, etc., and you write a letter and send it back to them.
Yeah.
Or your job is every time someone's visa is about to expire, and when it gets to 3 months to expire, your job is to send them a reminder.
Yeah.
And this is how and they just sit in an environment, and then there's like an event ticker.
Yeah,
every time they spot their job, they spin up, do their job, and then they go back to sleep.
Nice. Rather than having one piece of software that's just churning away, doing not much.
Yeah.
The benefit you have with the agents is they'll just spin up when they need to be.
They can spin up. The benefits are, you're absolutely right, they can spin up when they need to be.
Yeah.
The second thing is it's incredibly quick to build them. Like, it takes a couple of hours to build an agent. So you can build stuff with agents that if you tried to build it as software would take you months.
Yes.
Which one is obviously the advantage of speed. It also means it's now financially viable to automate a whole category of stuff that wasn't previously. The second thing is you can make the agents respond to any of the events or data within the system, which means you can personalize stuff, right?
Yeah.
So you can say, every time we employ someone who's also a student, do this. Or every time we also employ someone who's...
It hits that event.
Yeah, so you can personalize the experience.
Yeah.
And the third thing is you can start to test and learn, because you can just, do it. And you can also, the agents don't need to be deterministic. So you can say, I'd like you to do step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you'll do that. But you can also give the agents autonomy to work out how to...
Doesn't need to do. I've already got that information. Exactly. I don't need that.
So what happens is then the agent spins up and it utilizes like a large language model to work out, how do I solve the problem I've been given?
Yeah.
So like someone's asked a question, what's the recipe for this?
Mm.
I can, the way to work that out is to look in the knowledge library, find something and then pull that back. Or you can have things that, like, my job as an agent might be, I'm here to optimize the speed to effectiveness of a new employee. And I'm going to keep making assessments about what the next best step is for a given employee.
And then the fastest route.
Yeah. So, and in the people space, that's just, without sounding too boring, that's just transformative.
Yeah.
Because in people, because of the complexity of what influences people's behavior, it's really difficult to predict with any degree of certainty what someone's going to need more than like 2 or 3 steps out. Like, you can't tell, like, what's the best experience for a new starter on day 47?
Yeah.
Who knows?
No.
Whereas if you can create an agent with some autonomy, you can now digitize much longer processes.
But I guess you also get to see the responses as well. So the more responses you end up getting, the more staff that's starting at date 47, when you've got 57 people that have gone through it, actually know, you start to learn.
So what we've got is and you can use the agents to get feedback. Like, I can look at what you said at the end of the day. So you get the behavior on people's data, like how long did it take them to complete compliance training? What did they say after day one, et cetera, et cetera. You've also got the data of the social context. So you can look at, like, the team, like, what's the stability of the team? What are the manager's strengths and weaknesses? You've got all that data. And you've all got,
but you're picking the sweet one out of the responses as well, right? So if someone just says fine, fine doesn't really mean fine. I think my friend, I don't want to mention her name, but my friend went to a counselling, and she was told that fine stands for fucked up, insecure, neurotic, and emotional. So if anyone says fine to you, you know that don't mean fine. So, but I mean, it's, you can there's nuances.
Well, you can
what everyone says.
So the agent. So for our feedback things, you can create the agent with the autonomy to ask a follow-up question based on the printing. So if you said fine, the agent can come back and say, hey, Adam, can you give it a bit, like, what was good, what was bad? Or if you say, like, your first day was a 2 out of 10, it'd say, Adam, sounds like we messed up. Like, what went wrong? So, and you can, because we can use the AI to make sense of the natural language, not just the structure, that all acts as a data input. And then because of where we sit in the HR stack, we can also pull the data out of a rotor, out of
because you're ingesting data, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So another piece that we can probably mention is that ingesting piece, right? So uploading, like, there's HR manuals that are like freaking, if you were 3 years ago, even 2 years ago now, probably, a look at the PDF and just Control F to find page 17 of whatever, it's mind numbing, and then you just give up, and then you're like going to quit, whatever. Do you know what I mean? So that option of ingesting the data, but not only ingesting the data, you're ingesting the data from the rotoring tools as well, right? So you're ingesting, I think the ingestion of data is unbelievably important.
And actually, if people are, coming back to what we talked about, like, I genuinely think there will be a transformation in what's happening with AI. The biggest foundational piece is, can you use your own data?
Yeah.
Like, it sounds silly, but answering a question like, when's my next shift, or how many days holiday have I got left, or like, what's the recipe for X? Or what did we sell in?
Listen, so my eldest is a trainee hairdresser, and she has to, because she's on the apprentice side, she has to log into a separate web page to then put the hours that she was working. Otherwise, at the end of the apprenticeship, she has to then finish those hours. I mean, it's just, I'm like, this is mind-numbing. I mean, she goes, I have to do it, otherwise I've been told physically that I'll have an extra, like, if I don't do it, they don't know I've done it. But I'm like, doesn't make, I mean, literally it's manually. And even putting a holiday request is something like sending a message in the thingy that she's got, and then someone eventually, I mean, it's just, I mean, crazy. I mean, that's just that. I mean, obviously, you've still got people writing down stuff on manual stuff. So for having the option just to say, how many days holiday do I have left?
It sounds so simple, but if your data's
you say that as well. I mean, in the past it would be sent an email goes to HR would then respond 5 days later because that overloaded with billions of people.
Talk to, once you hit about 1,000 employees, you're probably getting 500-600 emails a month into a people team inbox. That's a lot. That's like you're chasing people to renew visas all the time. You're chasing people to do return to work checks. And HR gets a bad rap for being like compliance, admin, reactive. But like, you actually look at it like, you have to do this stuff. And you've got no time left. There's nothing. The key bit now, the bit that makes me excited about what's possible is I think our agents can probably do about 80% of that work.
Wow.
You can respond to questions.
Yeah.
It can manage a process. It can nudge people and remind people for stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
You're going to be deported tomorrow.
yeah. Well, it does. It's it's like, it'll come through and say, you've got 3 months.
Yeah.
By the way, the Home Office are currently taking 8 weeks to turn these round.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
You can, yeah. And it's so you can have people teams that are not spending all that time on admin.
Yeah, but looking after the people.
And at the same time, you've actually got a better experience because as an employee, like if I want to ask a question at 2 a.m. on a Sunday, I can get the answer on 2 a.m. on a Sunday. If I want an employment reference, it'll happen instantly. Like rather than waiting a week or 2 weeks and worrying about it.
Yeah.
So that's what's exciting. I think you can do both. You can save people a lot of faff and time and all that sort of thing, but also create a better experience.
So is this just hospitality, or are you looking? Is it once you've hospitality is a difficult network anyway to do it in? So I mean, if you can do it in hospitality, you can do it anywhere.
That's what,
that's
what people are telling me.
So is the plan to look at other areas as well? I know I'm going to the future now.
At the moment, we're just looking at hospitality.
Yeah.
And the key bit is we build the agents for our customers.
Is each customer you're building those individual? Is it the default template of like my little agents out? And then agents assemble, and then you tweak each one, or is it like
some are pretty standard?
Yeah,
like I need to change my phone number. It's pretty standard. So the ones we take more pride in are like onboarding journeys where you're actually telling the story of the business and those. Sorts
I love
of things.
that. Yeah.
So and
kick out a video of the CEO. Pops up and,
one of our customers was he once so he'd read a behavioural science study around pension auto enrollment.
Yeah.
He wants, whenever someone says they want to opt out of the pension scheme, the bot will ask them to take a photo of themselves.
Yeah.
It will then turn that photo into a version of themselves aged 75 and then ask, are you sure you don't want this person to have any money?
I love that.
So those sorts of things. We will get to a place in the next 12 months where we'll have essentially self-service on the agent, so people will be able to build them for themselves.
Oh, nice.
And prompt them for themselves, and there'll be like a marketplace of stuff you can drag and drop as templated experiences. And at that point, we'll start to look a bit broader.
Yeah,
I think ultimately we see ourselves as like any frontline team member who has to engage with HR stuff on their mobile phone. That's where we're.
So what was the? I don't know if you can share. I mean, did you have the little cohort that we just started with you from the beginning?
Well, that's where we are now. So we're just approaching our sort of like 10th customer.
Nice.
As I said,
and also just to everyone know, you've got a sweet spot. So this isn't for the 1 to 5s. It's never going to really work for the small because it doesn't really. It's mostly outsourced. This is more. What? How many locations?
I think that we know we can be useful to people once you hit about 100, 150 and beyond.
Yeah.
And the litmus test for me is when, as a founder, you turn up and you no longer recognise the people who are working for you.
Yeah.
So
I think you mentioned that to me the other day.
There's this point, like just in terms of the social complexity of your business, where once you're like, oh, who's that? That's an indicator that you probably need to start systematizing, because your brain can't stay on top of that. Relationships. When you're smaller than that, the best way to influence decision making and culture within your business is just in your personal influence as a founder.
So you have the time. They have the time.
So lots of our customers are sort of 100 up to about 500.
Yeah.
Now that we're getting more confident in what the agents can do, actually, I think we're starting to get bigger customers, and also like when you get to 10,000 odd employees and you've got a people team of 40, 50 people, without sounding callous, like. That's quite a lot of rationalization you can affect in a people team. So the value proposition.
We're taking like the amount of work they can do really to help the business, rather than just field. Yeah, because they're fielding. Right? Those groups are fielding all those millions of email, not millions, but probably thousands of emails coming in.
And that's and so our ideal customer is usually someone who's growing because they like the idea that I can build this once.
Yeah,
and whereas the typical route when you people is like every third site you're hiring a new HR admin, you could just software scales. You don't have to. And then you can build a people team that's just focused on building a product rather.
So you're going to have one HR manager, or people manager sitting there just building agents for their company. Like you'll train them up, and then this little guy just
I think once you hit scale, you'll have smaller people teams.
Yes.
With subject matter experts that are focused on building product.
Yeah.
Like if you see onboarding as a product or a promotion as a product.
Yeah.
That's delivered with agents.
Yeah.
That's where I think it.
I think the nice thing as well is that I say it often. It's like making positive change, like the little things you're doing about, as you mentioned before, about it's okay. My shift was okay, but why was it okay? And digging further in and feeding that data in, and then obviously then it can get flagged up. I think that is awesome.
But take onboarding, right?
Yeah.
Everyone most people in the industry are like focused on 90-day turnover. How many people actually know what's driving their 90-day turnover?
Yeah.
Like, is it shift patterns? Is it manager behavior? Is it something that you could have?
It's in ether. It's completely in ether.
No one's got
it's all in the
but
clouds.
Imagine if someone told you,
yeah,
what it is after week 6, people get bored.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Now I know what I need to go and do.
Yeah.
Or what it is after 2 weeks, we put people on a Saturday night, we stress them out, and then they leave 10 days later.
Yeah.
Thank you. You can do something. It's that level of precision that you can get to with what's causing.
So interesting.
And that makes you, if you're a people person, that just makes your life like so much easier. Yeah. That's where I need to start running my tests. I don't even need an answer. Then you can start.
Yeah. Focus on that pinch point.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, it's like back in the day having a Google form of how was your shift and then no one checking it. Yeah. Like, or vote yes or no.
But and then, it's when you can, in the people space, what's critical is when you start combining that data with the other data you've got, because it's so easy in a complex
you're not single vision.
One data point, you think that tells you everything, and it won't. If that makes sense. Like it's like
we're marrying everything together to give you the answer. It's this rather than those individual, because it's siloed. Like if you look at operations and marketing and everything else, lots of it's all siloed, right? And I'm assuming listen, as I'm not an expert, but in people's space as well, there's all little siloed areas. They're all doing their own little job. They're all their own little AI agents doing their own little thing, but they're just not talking to each other. And what you're doing is bringing it together like a little community. Yeah. So nice. It's really interesting. I think, and also saving a ton of time. And money.
Time, and let's be like, particularly from a frontline manager's point of view, it's not really work you want to be doing.
No.
Like it's just drudge, and I think the industry as a whole has got to a point where it's sort of kind of accepted that managers are going to spend 5-6 hours a week in their office just doing admin, and it doesn't need to be like that. That's our focus at the moment. Particularly, it's like, how do we give time back to people?
I like that. Or generally, I mean, you can expand that into. So one of my little things here is challenges in scaling hospitality tech platforms. So I think one of the things was. I mean, we've talked about some tough challenges, but I mean, now you're on version 3. Yeah. I think you're coming over the hump, right?
I hope so.
Yeah. About to find out.
Yeah.
So it's. How have you seen the peaks and troughs of it? Because you have developers, right?
Yeah.
Are you more like the vision and then they build, or?
Yeah. Although I've started building agents,
have you?
It's that easy that I can build it. Yeah. That's what that was like.
I was having a play with N8N the other day, which is really clever. And then someone my Instagram's full of AI, machine learning and AI stuff. It's just my wife's full of dogs and puppies, and mine is just full of this. And then someone built an N8 chat. Okay. So now instead of me having to build it, I can just type in what I want, which is really clever. So N8N that's just blown my mind of what can be done with building. I'm just in awe of it at the moment. I haven't got even time to look at it, but it is crazy. I was talking to a colleague of mine who's just built the whole thing. Yeah. Blown away. Sorry, I digress. The dev's building the dev stuff, and then you're basically tweaking with building little agents. Because what you said was before is that you're going to be allowing people to build that, right? So
we will create. At the moment, we build the agents.
Yes.
I think we need 3-6 months of just testing, understanding how they behave, and then we'll create a self-service platform.
Yeah. So are you?
I do some. Dub does. The whole team does. But I'm not a coder.
No, but you're playing with building some little agents here, or are you feeding what the agent should do?
Both.
Oh, sweet, nice. Yeah. Okay, tweaking. I guess there's always going to be tweaking, right?
Yeah.
It's very interesting. My brain's just going of just generic stuff because the data that it's ingesting just generally is crazy. I love the flow, the peaks and flows of it. And so, what about other platforms? Are you, because obviously you're on that generation, you're ready to go out.
Are there others in the market that have, because there's different things that are out there. There are some that people are just building stuff to ingest data and to like, here's my HR manual, you can ask it questions because it's not hard to do that sort of stuff. There's other things that are doing it. Are you finding that we're now in the market of people like, literally there's the freaking Antler and everything, and there's all these little people are coming out with stuff the whole time.
I think the space is moving quite quickly, but to my knowledge, we're the only people with an agentic environment trying to do what we're trying to do. There are other instances of AI, like what's called retrieval augmented generation. So you dump some documents in it for search, and and as you said, like Youda does that, but like you could build that with a YouTube tutorial. And it's a great use case. It's really useful, and I think you'll see more of that come into things.
I just hope people don't go upload their personal data into ChatGPT and then use that for it, because that's the funniest thing. If you are doing it, please don't upload any private data into ChatGPT or any AI tool, to be honest with you, because it's publicly available. Just that little flag out to people.
So there's like in our space, to my knowledge, no one else is doing agentic stuff. But lots of people are doing other, like you talked about machine learning on rotors and prediction around that. There's lots of other useful and interesting use cases. I think the thing that makes us feel optimistic is if you looked at what we can do versus some of the legacy products in the space, like we can build stuff so much. If you've got a data architecture that is out of date, it's very difficult.
Well, as you said, you can spin up more agents to do what you need to do. So you're not coding hard coding, which is the challenging piece, right? If you have a tool and you're continuously hard coding, you're continuously fixing bugs, you're continuously editing code and iterating, and then fixing, and then upgrading, because things are continuously changing.
So I think we like. I think there's lots of legacy products who just aren't the best they'll come up with over Copilot. Like a bit of AI that will make the product easier to use, but they're not going to fundamentally change what the product does.
No.
So where Youda sits is we want to sit on top of like a rotor, payroll, LMS, ATS, etc. And then be like the experience layer. So there's within Youda, there's, if you like, an HRIS, there's like a system of record. But with the data, you need to create better experiences. So like the irony for me is most hospitality businesses have no idea how many vegetarians they employ, or how many of their employees have kids or caring responsibility. And so all
100%.
of that, so that data, and then there's the agent environment, and then we've got a mobile app which has got like group chat, newsfeed, and the bot on it.
Okay.
So that team members ought to be on a app that they're using every day.
As workplace, like Facebook workplaces disappearing, which is only one little piece.
Well, that's why we're on version 3. So version 2, we were just middleware. Pushing into Workplace, and then Workplace ceased to exist. It was like, great, we'll have to we'll build a mobile app. But what's cool about that for us is when you look at, so Pat, who's our AI guy, he's got a PhD in machine learning from
Love that.
Pat. So when we talk to Pat about what
Pat's locked in a room and doesn't see daylight.
He's a Bond villain. Like you don't let him out of the room. He's like,
he's not real.
He's not real. You talk like about what we anticipate will happen with the large language models will open up, I think, in the next 12, 18 months, voice as the modality for interacting with agents. So at the moment, if you try and talk to an agent, there's just a tiny irritating lag as it processes, and the expectation is that will disappear. And so for us, what was important is we really wanted to be in control of the user interface with someone using our agent, because we want to be able to experiment with different. So we were talking to someone the other day, they're like, so you can use Youda for like checklist stuff. So they wanted to do fridge temperatures, for instance, right? It's like, could you push that into like an Alexa? So that if you're in the kitchen, it could just go, hey, Adam, can you tell us the temperature of the fridge? And you shout out like it's 8 degrees. And it's done. So like that sort of stuff's really exciting to us, because we would like to get Youda to a place where it feels like everyone in your business has basically got a butler.
Well, now you've got an app, you can push to the app, right, as well. So you don't, you can literally just say, have you done X? Or, by the way, you haven't done Y. Those little pieces, people are used to it now. They're used to their, Spotify pushing to this and their little wallets doing X, Y, and Z.
Exactly. And the thing I'm really excited about is you can start to, we talked about personalizing the agent. You can personalize the agent on the day, but you can also like what would you like the
personality type and tone of voice of your agent to be.
I like that.
So Dub on
Bit
our
cheeky.
Dub on our team wants his to talk to him like it's Brian Blessed.
Yeah.
But I also think in the context in which you're working, like, you know, it's February, it's a bit dull. Like, I'm going to get my agent to talk to me like, I don't know, an East End gangster for 3 weeks, or my nan, or whatever. You know, like,
no, I love that.
So
you got to have a bit of a play. Like, it's hospitality. You've got to have a bit of a laugh. And you're right. There are stagnant times where it's just like boring.
Yeah.
Like January is dead.
Yeah.
You know, let's, and then you're engaging the team. Yeah. I can, my brain's going like, throw a quiz out across.
Yeah.
Let's just do.
It's so easy to do.
Yeah. And let's do a Kahoot, you know.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what what's exciting for, I think we can save you time, we can save you money, which is like, which sort of gets us in the game. But then actually there's this opportunity just to make life a bit more enjoyable, a bit more fun, and to get new insight out of people. And No,
and asking just little questions. It's really interesting. You say, you're right about the whole, who has childcare, who's vegetarian, those little data points just aren't there. It's not something you fill out on an onboarding form, is it? Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, your grandma's birthday or something stupid.
Wouldn't it be great if you're a restaurant owner, you go, okay, can you ask everyone what they thought of the vegan special last month?
Yeah.
And then tell me what the vegans thought of it.
Yeah.
Or like ask everyone.
Or just ask the vegans.
Yeah. Or like ask everyone who's got a kid under the age of 11 what they think we like of the experience we give to kids.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, now I'm getting some actual
because you'll get the truth.
Insight. Yeah.
Rather than just the public who will just be like meh.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. You've got this. This is the irony of
you've got this whole data source. You've got
people who are stood in front of customers,
and they just want the business to succeed. Yeah, so they want to help you, but no one's using that. Yeah.
And you come back to my story, and I like going to talk to the guys who worked on the machines. Actually, if you ask people, and most importantly, if you actually act on the feedback they give you, and they can see they're making a difference.
That's worth.
Yeah, it's like, this is a much more interesting place for me to work, where I think I have this ability to influence stuff and to test my ideas and to contribute, versus like my job's just to turn up and, you know,
stand.
Yeah, look after 12 tables for an afternoon.
Yeah,
you know? Like I think, that's.
You're basically regenerating how hospitality is, or maybe bringing it back to how it should be with smaller teams, with, you know, making it feel.
We talk like your favorite Italian place and what, like, it's kind of trying to keep that.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like 100%. The guy that runs that Italian almost certainly knows you.
Yeah.
You know, he knows what you want.
100%.
He knows the team.
Yeah, that's it. Like a little wink, you know, it's done.
Knows who's having a good day on the team, who's having a bad day, knows who's good for ideas, knows who cares about this, who doesn't care about that. The problem is
as you scale, you lose it, right?
You lose it.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at it through the consumer lens and you talk about like which are the companies that know you best as a customer, it's either the sort of the small local, right?
Yeah.
Like your personal trainer or your marriage counselor or your landlord or your pub or your hairdresser or something. And neither of us are, or it's the huge organizations like the Facebooks, the Googles, etc., etc. Now in people,
every single data point about you.
Yeah. Now in people and people management, there's no big data solution.
No.
Because no one's, as I say, generating the data, and no one's got a way of utilizing it so that you could deliver a similar sort of output but at scale.
Yeah,
and that's what I hope that we'll enable.
That's so interesting.
It
really is. It really. I mean, I'm going away. My brain's going on the possibilities of just asking questions.
Yeah,
like like it's really weird. Like I do a thing in the US. It's called Digital Hospitality. It's like Wednesdays and Fridays. It's not a live stream, and theirs is like be curious, ask questions, and ask for help. But no one really asks for help.
Yeah.
Until they have to, right? And I think that really what you're doing is one little piece of it as well. Well, two pieces. It's you know, be curious.
Yeah.
Ask. I think there's little 3 taglines might help you. To be honest with you, with it, because it's asking. It lets people ask for help. It lets people be curious and you know,
the asking for help thing for me is what I would love to get to a place where it's not just the center of the business asking for help. It's like, if I'm a manager, can I create an agent that asks my team for feedback?
Yeah.
On the things I'm interested in.
Yeah.
And that should be as easy for me to do as it is for someone in the head office to, because so I can find out the stuff I want.
Yeah,
or something.
Yeah, so you're making positive change in it, turning it into a single restaurant, really.
Yeah.
Like it might be a large group, but it allows him to have control and get that information.
But again, you talked about like delayering.
Yes.
Like I actually think that's kind of the vibe you want.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
100%.
Like local ownership, local accountability.
Yeah.
Use those multiple local sites for insight, and then actually quite a small coordinating center rather than what we've got,
Giant.
these huge pyramid
Yeah.
structures.
Yeah. 100%. That's so interesting. Okay, so we're coming towards the end. Sorry, I could go on forever to talk to you. This is so interesting, and I'm not a people person. I'm a people person, but I'm not the that sort of people person. It's really because we speak to loads of people, right? On the IT side of the business, I speak to loads, but I feel that people are always siloed. They're just there, it's a shame because they should be shining about what they do because it's a freaking hard job. Okay, so. Here we go. This is one of the last questions that I sent was the industry insights. How do you see technology and people operations evolving in the industry? It's such a people-centric business. Tech adoption is a big question. Yeah, because I think that piece is going to be the hardest part of what you're doing. The whole of the adoption piece as well as planning it and the operational piece. Yeah, because the people side are jumping for joy, but the adoption thing in hospitality, the typical way of doing it is we've just got a new piece of software, by the way, off you go. Yeah, and then it just falls flat on its face. Yeah, I think you're right. I think the big bit we're cognizant from an adoption bit is just your legacy tech. The biggest challenge in AI is making it work with what was built before AI existed. Yeah. And I think, unfortunately, if businesses don't get on top of that quickly enough, they'll find it really difficult to catch up. Yeah. Because AI isn't really like software. Yeah. So, like if you buy a new piece of software, like a new POS or something, you put it in, you're going to get 85-90% of the value of that software within the first week or whatever. It works from the start. It's like buying a new car. Yeah. AI just gets better and better over time. The more data you feed it, the more you train it. It's much more like trying to train then the tools that need to pull data out are just there. Yeah. As you said, if you're not in a position where you can get better, you can get the situation where people who've got a good architecture that are using it, are training it, are just going to pull away. Because the gains of this stuff are so significant. It's interesting. I was talking to a colleague the other day who's built like a stock management system for smaller businesses, and he's now just built an ingestion for receiving emails and PDFs. Yeah, because some of these tools don't have EDI, like for stock control, don't have EDI integrations. He goes, I can't be bothered to start building all these integrations. I just told them to forward the email, send an auto forward to us. Yeah. And that's probably what's going to happen with the same tool as yours. Yeah. That generic thing from that platform is going to forward to you guys. You'll just pick up the sweet corner of the data and feed it in. Yeah. So I think that's happening more and more now with data. So, those legacy systems that they can't do because they're in a 7-year contract, because, the people stuff, they like to sign those 7-year or 5-year contracts with those old archaic platforms. Yeah. And they've got roped in and they can't afford to get out of it because it's so much money. So is that something that you guys have looked at as well? You get that big customer that's like, you've got 500 staff, but they're using a piece of shit system. Yeah, you've been there. Yeah, the difference. So it's what you take the data for. So data for analysis that we dump into a neural net is quite easy to manage. Because it's not live real time data. It's data for actually delivering agentic where you need live data. Yeah, and that's the big challenge. Yeah, and candidly, what we found since we started is just how much of a mess. Like there are systems out there that you cannot get a consistent answer on the same data point from. Wow. You can run the same inquiry sometimes to get 3 different answers. Like it's some of it's like really shocking. Yeah. Well, there's never need because it's just all siloed. It's sat there, and they've printed their report and that gets in a file. Yeah. So so there's like that's hard. Challenging. Yeah. I think the hard thing is I genuinely think it's going to become business critical for people. Yeah. Like I think, no one was like, if I was a CEO 10 years ago, I wasn't worried that my Rosa application was going to cause my business. Actually, if everyone else starts taking out, like the headcount and is able to show on the bottom, like we've put X% on the profit. Actually, if you suddenly, why did you choose this system then? Like, because it doesn't do it doesn't say what it says on the tin. Yeah, and you signed up for. But that's the problem. I think Chris says 75% of people take a recommendation from someone else
Yeah.
rather than looking into it themselves. They're like, oh, you what do you use? I use that. I want to sign up tomorrow.
Yeah.
I have a good meeting. Yeah, it was all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah,
You know?
there are. Yeah, I think just asking a few key questions around some of the stuff is important.
I think you might just do a bit of content on that.
Yeah.
If you're changing, does your platform do this, this, and this? If it doesn't, you should be looking to change.
Yeah.
Because that's important, right?
Yeah.
As you said, it can really damage your business.
Yeah, and as you said, like if you're in a multi-year contract, it's not easy to spin it around and sort that out. Like you know, say you're in a multi-year contract and you're looking at an implementation period, and you got to do all that before you can jump on any of this AI stuff.
Yeah,
that's
behind this. You're already digging your grave.
Yeah,
right. You're behind. So thank you. I mean, so yeah, this is. I love talking about AI agents. That's in my brain at the moment. So, but thank you for coming. I'm going to do a little. They can hear that. You can't. Well, you can sort of hear it a little bit. But thank you for coming. It's so interesting. I don't know enough about it because we spoke before, and you were like, "Well, this is what we do." Is not really your bag, but it's super interesting on how effective change you can make.
Yeah.
With it, not saying it's a simple tool, but with that tool.
Yeah.
Right. And also making hospitality a bit more fun again.
Yeah.
You know, because I think that's another tool, another piece. All right. Final questions. Best restaurant.
Best restaurant ever. Back in my consultancy days, I did a project in Japan, and I think it's called. Is it called the Orient? There's a hotel in Kobe, with like Kobe beef, teppanyaki on the top floor in a whiskey bar, and you get your own personal chef. And
you did well in the consultancy, that job.
Yeah, well, the guy who ran it was pleased with the piece of work. He said, "Oh, we'll take you here." And that was just Kobe beef, like just unbelievable. Yeah, and it was just the theatre of a guy. Like,
I love theatre.
Of someone cooking it in front of you, and that was pretty memorable.
Yeah, that sounds quite special. Best burger.
Best burger. I did some work with Honest Burgers. I find it hard to get beyond an Honest burger. Yeah,
they are good.
They are good.
Did you try the smash but Honest?
I have had a smash. I'm a bit old. I'm old school. Yeah.
I do like Honest. My colleague over there in the office across there, he's a bit addicted to. They've got this deal with wings and rings, and he's like, Adam, I'm not Honest. Do you want to come? I was like, I'll be there in a minute. But it's a great product. I like the whole story behind it. I've had Tommy and Gemma on, and there's a whole story behind it, and how being a group, but also having specials and having the GM working with just the whole story of it is great. So best hotel.
The best hotel will be the Newman, which opens up the road from here in summer.
Where?
It's it's somewhere in Fitzrovia. So they're a new customer for you. So they'll be going live in July, August.
There's Newman Street. Is it on Newman Street?
Yeah, it must be.
Okay, nice.
Until then, from a people thing, I'm a huge fan of Molly's. Do you know Molly's?
No. Oh,
motels and diners.
Yes. Is it owned by Soho?
It was. I think it was.
Yeah.
It's now, I think it's spun out of.
It's
now its own.
I've heard of it. It looks awesome.
It's like it's really nicely executed.
Yeah.
As you expect from something that's come out of Soho House, but actually what they do on the people side is really inspirational. Particularly the stuff they do with employability schemes and working with people with different needs and that sort of thing. And,
you get to see. It's really interesting. Is you get to see how everyone's working.
Yeah.
Do people like? So are we doing a good job? Do people like say that? Do you not get that? Do people? I can't tell you. I'm really sorry. You're doing a great job. Well done.
No one cares.
And then you leave going, they're doing a shit job. Seriously.
It will be interesting when we start generating data at some scale.
Like you're gonna have a leaderboard. Ooh. You're gonna have like a client internal client leaderboards of who's doing.
So what we will have is that not necessarily across clients, but within clients, the agents will be able to understand the causal model. So the agents will basically self-optimize.
Well, they're fixing stuff.
Yeah.
The basic fixing thing. The agents are going to be fixing stuff.
Yeah.
So eventually, so you're going to be seeing trends, and those agents will fix those trends.
Yeah.
And then staff retention's higher, sales are better, life is better.
Yeah.
And just because they're seeing causality of what's happening.
Exactly.
And seeing.
So
I hate the word problem, right? It's not. I'm not.
No, in a positive sense. Though.
So they can find the problems. And
problems
potentially.
are
Problems are great for you. Yeah.
Well, it's like as soon as you know what the problem is, you can actually do something about it. Like the challenge in people is ill-defined problems. Where you've got the symptoms.
Well, so fragmented, as you said, right? So there's no cause. There isn't any. There is. It's just everywhere.
It's just everywhere.
Yeah,
and everyone's got an opinion on it.
Yeah, I can imagine. And people have worked on the people side for years.
Yeah,
across different sides. So it's really interesting that there's little agents, my little minions, are going to be going, right, hold on, I can see this happening here, and then look for those problems, and then find how to fix them.
Yeah,
and I love that.
So you'll have my little use case on Drive to is one day people director on Youda, you'll get a message from you to say, hey, Adam, we've been looking at the attrition of people being promoted from assistant manager to manager. We believe that if you install these sets of agents, you'll reduce the churn, you'll increase the speed to effectiveness. It'll cost you X, click here.
Yeah.
And the benefit will be Y.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, okay, that's amazing. I'm not going to ask more.
This is a quick fire.
Yeah, but it's great. No, because it's really interesting. There is such a difficulty with general retention anyway. And hospitality is such a big beast of everything. I don't see that side of the people management side. I've spoken to people in people management. We speak to them all the time. But to be able to offload everything, not everything, but offload a lot of the staff and make positive change in any business for any product, and not necessarily yours, is a game changer. Yeah. And then if you're able to also help them, keep their staff, make sure that the right people are being looked after, even to the point of the text message of fine, and asking that question back, which generally wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
The GM of a site who's super busy running around, how was the weekend? That was right. And then, okay, great, off you go.
Yeah.
And then nothing, and then they've gone 2 weeks later. Yeah. It's huge. So, but I'm going to give you another round of applause, which you deserve. Thank you so much. 2 questions for the next guest. Could be operator, could be marketer, could be so many people. Who knows?
All right. The first one, can I get some free product research?
Yeah.
What's the one thing about your job you'd like an agent to do instead?
I like that.
And the second, if you were prime minister for a day, what would you do?
That's big. That's big. Thank you very much. I'm going to give everyone a little wave goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.